Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. The topic for today's lectures is what is linguistic and its different aspect. This video is in a two-part. In the first part we are talking about linguistic and its definition and why it is so important for learning any language and its different aspect. In the second part we are going to discuss and we are going to explain its different subfield like phonetic, phonology, morphology, syntax, all etc. So this video is going to be very important for you if you want to understand linguistic and gain its concept, its core concept. So you have to watch it till the end. Now let's start it. What is linguistic? Linguistic is a very important term and it's also a wide and broad term. You have to understand it completely if you want to know about the rules, regulation and everything that is related to any language. Not a particular language but to any language. Because language is a communicating medium through which we can communicate, and through such communications we understand people around us, we understand them, and we convey certain message to them to whom we are speaking. So language is a very important, it's a vital part, a vital component of the human life. Without language a human's life will be incomplete. So language is a very important term, and for learning language and for understanding the complete language you have to understand the linguistics, and it's a modern day approach too. So people everywhere discuss language and its different components. They have ideas about its nature, about its origin, about its uses, acquisition and so on. But linguistic refer to the body of knowledge, a body of knowledge about language that is structured in a way that is form it as a science rather than a mythology on which you have to just believe on. No, in linguistic you don't need to believe on it, because linguistic is a practical thing. It is practiced in a culture, in a society. So it is a cultural phenomena. So linguistic is also, but keep one thing in mind, that linguistic does not define any particular language. Linguistic talks about every language in the world, because it is the study of the natural language, not a particular language but a natural language, and there are so many natural languages. The linguistic is derived from two words, ling and istics. Ling means language and istic means knowledge or science. These are the two Latin words, lings and istics. So these are the two Latin words, and when we combine these two Latin words, out of that we have like the word language and knowledge or science. So basically linguistic is the knowledge or science of language. When we are talking about linguistic, it means that we are talking about knowledge or science of any language. We want to understand, we want to approach any language scientifically. So language, its approach, linguistics and its approach is scientifically to any language. Scientifically it analyzes any language. Linguistics try to answer the basic question, the very basic question, that what is language and how does it work? So language is a science which studies origin, organization, nature, development of the language descriptively, historically, cooperatively, explicitly, and rules formulated to the related language. This is the work, or this is the main domain of the linguistic. When it's come to the linguistic level, like language is made of a very small particles, of very small units. But in order to understand the small units, the smaller units that are indivisible, and out of that indivisible units we have and we are using to making up a language, we have to study linguistics level. Like there are three basic and fundamental structure or aspect. The material aspect, substance is a raw material of every language, and as I said that language is made of a smaller unit. So some substance is a smaller and raw material of any language. that are used in making a language. The second part is the structural aspect. When we have a raw materials, when we have a substance, when we have a material aspects, so we have to see all these things in a form. If they don't have any form, it means the language is not in a proper form. We have to bring them in a concrete form. We have to bring them in a proper form in order to take out of sense, in order to because this is the only way when the word, this raw material, can give us meanings, can give us a particular message, and we can understand what we are trying to read or what we are trying to listen, or what we are trying to speak, because all these things have a certain form. The third thing is the environmental aspect, the context. What is context and what is the environmental aspect? If you have a sentence, if you have a raw materials, and out of that raw materials you made a form, so the third thing comes in this, which is very important, the context. Without the context, without the environmental knowledge, you cannot understand a specific sentence. You cannot understand me what I'm trying to say. Although I have a knowledge, I can speak to you and you can understand me, you can understand my word, but you cannot get meaning out of my words, you cannot get meaning out of my sentences, because you don't have a environmental knowledge, you don't have a context, you are unaware of the context. So for understanding and creating any communication or taking place any communication, you must have a context, the knowledge of context in which a certain sentences you are going to utter. So this is the very basic and three fundamental aspects of linguistic level. Language is made up of units. As I said, that it is made up of units, and which are themselves. These units themselves are made of for the smaller unit, which are made up of a smaller unit till we have the smallest indivisible unit. A time come when we have a smallest unit that is undivided, that cannot be divided further, and language is made of that very smallest unit of language. For example, we have a phone's sound, which means sound, and out of phones we have a phonemes. So phoneme is the very smallest unit. Phoneme was introduced in 19th and 20th century. It was first introduced in 1870, and then later by Daniel John, and then later it was in 1930 when many more critics work on it. So this was introduced in 1870 for the first time, and 1930 in the later stage when people start working on phoneme. So phoneme is the smallest unit. Different people, different critics define morpheme in a different way. Someone says it is a physical unit. Others says it is an abstractional fictitious unit. So these are the different definition, but basically phonemes is a very smallest unit of any language. When we combine phonemes in order to form a morpheme, morpheme is also a smaller unit, but larger than a phoneme. In a phoneme we have a sound, we have just only a sound, but in a morpheme we have the combination of morpheme makes a morpheme which is a larger unit. For example, I write a morpheme. Morpheme is also a smaller unit. For example, if I write a morpheme man, so it contains two morphemes. One, man, single morpheme, plus plural. So it has a two morpheme. Through the same way, if I say that disagreement, so disagree contain three morpheme. So three morpheme, disagreement contain three morpheme. There are also many morphemes in linguistics. Some morpheme may or may not have meaning. For example, if I say that un is a morpheme, it's a grammatical unit but cannot give you meaning. While on the other hand, if I say that happy, So happy is also a grammatical word unit, but it gives you meaning. This morpheme, you cannot take meaning out of it itself. You have to use with some other word. If I use un with happy, so it make like unhappy, and it gives us meaning. So different morphemes, when we combine different morpheme, we form a word. A word is also smallest and grammatical units larger than a morpheme but smaller than a sentence. When we have a different words, then we can combine those words in a proper form in a sentence that gives us meaning. And such thing we can study in the study of syntax. Syntax is a study of structure of any language in which you have to see your words in a proper form to shape phrases, clauses and sentences. But those clauses, those phrases and those sentences that give you meanings. Grammatically, structure is important for any language. But if your grammatical structure does not give you meaning, so it is not a proper sentence. You have to write in a way that is structurally correct and meaning, and it gives you meanings. The third thing is, when we combine more sentences together, we make so the sentence is a larger than words and a larger unit than words. So when we combine sentences to make a unified piece of speech or writing, and which we will call a text or discourse. The last thing, that when we have a different sentence in making or in connected, so we have to see all these sentences and we have to think about why these sentences are used in a particular context or particular text, in what are their purpose, what are their implied meaning, what are their hidden meanings, and what are their suffix meaning. So basically this is the linguistics levels. There are two kind of levels in linguistics, like level of analysis and level of structure. In phonetic and phonology, we have to study sound and its formation. Phonetics studies the language at the level of sound. Morphology. In morphology, we have see the grammar of word and the word formation, how we can form a word. So all these things can be seen, can be studied in morphology. The third one is syntax. Syntax means structure, the sentence formation. When you have so many words, a right word that give you meaning, but still you have to put them in a proper order in order to give you a proper structure of a sentence that give you meaning. And for that you have to study syntax, the structure of any language. So if you want to study the structure of a sentence, you have to study the syntax, in which you have to see the sentence formation. The fourth one is the semantics. When you have a sentence formation, but if it gives you meaning, so it is alright and grammatically correct, both according to the structure and according to the semantics, because semantics deal with meaning. It analyze the meaning of any sentence. If a sentence is grammatically correct but cannot give you meanings, so it is not a proper sentence. As I said, that when we have a different sentence and different sentence have a different meanings, good and proper meaning, but still we have to see all these sentences, the connected sentences in a text, and their purpose and their aim. So for that purpose we have to study discourse. We have to see the connected sentences and their purpose, their implied meaning and their hidden meanings, their suffix meaning, and all such things. So basically these are the definitions of linguistics, its level and its aspects. And this is the first part of the video, and I hope you have liked it. You have understood what is linguistic and what is its different aspect.